Right now I got a real traveling man on the show, and you certainly recognize him. He's been on several times, Dr. Trin of Irvine Clinical Research. And I call him that because just a few hours ago you were heading back from Vietnam, right?
Yes, just got back from Vietnam a few hours ago. Medical missions trip.
Yeah, that's fantastic. We're going to talk about that another time.
Right.
But I know all the different mission trips that you go on and help people out. Fantastic. Today, I think it's a really good subject, something we have touched on in the past.
Right.
A healthy brain diet. And we're going to talk about what keeps the brain healthy in the form of nutrition. And we hear a lot of information out there. I think most of the time we don't hear about brain nutrition or food that helps our brain. We hear about heart disease and things like that, which of course is beneficial. But tell us about this approach and how it can have a positive effect.
This approach is so important because currently in Orange County, Alzheimer's is the third leading cause of death.
Wow.
And folks are wondering, what can we do? What can I do to slow this down, to prevent this? What actionable steps can be taken other than waiting for a diagnosis with that? Diet, I believe, is a key factor in the health of not just of our body, but especially of our brains. And we know this because there are countries in the world where folks live just as long as Americans do, but Alzheimer's is very low on their list of conditions and diagnoses.
Do you think Alzheimer's has been more prevalent in America, or I want to say more in Western kind of diets?
I've seen the correlation. I've seen the correlation. Let me give you some examples. Japan. Folks live long.
Yes, they do. Yeah.
Yes, they do. Alzheimer's is not high up there compared to what we see in the U.S. India, folks live long. Alzheimer's is one of the lowest rates in the world in India with that, and I correlate that to their lifestyle, and a significant part of that is diet.
You know, it's interesting. One of the things you wrote down here is the Mediterranean diet. We'll get to that in just a second. But when you look at other diets, such as in Japan, and what they typically eat, let's face it, they eat a lot of, on one hand, which we tend to kind of go away from here, is white rice, of course.
Yes.
But quite often they eat a lot of vegetable-centric diets, where meat is more of a flavoring.
Yes.
But what's interesting too, both in India and Japan and many other areas, that they have a lot of what I want to call pickled type products. A lot of, and I'm not talking about our typical dill pickles, but a lot of pickled type vegetables. It's very common in those diets.
They do.
Right?
They do. We've noticed that diets that are plant-based, plant-based diet, tend to help with the brain, actually to help with the body in general with that. And that's where a lot of the Mediterranean diet comes from, actually. The bulk of that diet is green leafy vegetables, or any type of vegetables, fruits, things that grow out of the ground. Is part of the Mediterranean diet. And it's been studied. It's been studied through clinical trials that a Mediterranean diet has the ability to slow down or to decrease the rate of diagnosis of Alzheimer's by a very significant margin, up to 30 to 50%, based on the studies you look at.
That's huge.
With that, and it's crazy because with that kind of data, why are we not out there promoting this and educating folks? In an area that has in the U.S. where Alzheimer's is currently the 6th leading cause of death, and in Orange County, the 3rd leading cause of death.
And a lot of times you hear about people having Alzheimer's, and then you correlate it with the 3rd leading cause of death. People go, how does that happen? We think of Alzheimer's, just somebody having dementia and memory loss. but it really involves far more than that once it facilitates and goes throughout more of the body. And
that's correct.
It's not understood well by the general public. They just think it's something to do with the mind.
Yes, the memory loss itself, just from not remembering, isn't what kills you.
Right.
It is not taking your blood pressure medications and having blood pressure out of control that gets you. Not controlling your diabetes diet.
Okay.
Or taking your medications that flares up other conditions that gets you. And at some point, you forget how to do your activities of daily living. You become bedbound. You forget how to eat. You don't remember who your family is.
So it's a spiral downward.
It's a spiral downward. It's a spiral downward.
As far as healthy food for your brain, are there certain ones, certain types of healthy food that you feel are really great benefits to help kind of set back Alzheimer's?
I think anything that is natural and plant-based is what we call an anti-inflammatory type diet is going to be beneficial.
And of course, leafy greens. We certainly know about that.
Right, nuts.
Yeah.
Almonds, pistachios, different types of nuts. Fish. Fish has omega-3 fatty acid, which is a strong antioxidant.
Yes, it is.
With that. Certainly, chicken is better than red meat. There actually is a diet that is not good for your brain. And unfortunately, it's called the American diet.
Yeah, probably. And it's probably a diet that I have quite
red
often,
meat,
but yes.
Fried foods, fast foods, cheese, which most of us are culprits of.
Yeah.
Butter and margarine, things that clog up the artery. Those top 5 things is bad for the brain, and unfortunately, it is the American diet.
Right.
With that.
Well, it's interesting you mentioned cheese because, of course, in other diets, in parts of the Mediterranean diet, certainly in Middle Eastern diet, you get a lot of what cheese-type products in a way because
you do.
Yeah,
you do, and we never say never take this, but in the appropriate proportions.
Yeah,
where if the green leafy vegetables and the plant-based diet is the bulk of your meal. That's what makes the difference, the right proportions.
Yeah, and exactly. And it's very easy. I'm a big meat eater, but I eat far less than what I used to. I mean, it used to be years ago for me, a steak wasn't a steak unless it was a pound. It was a big steak in front of me.
Right.
Sometimes I may still do that, but now you get a great piece of meat and you slice it up for the family. You find you're eating 4 or 5 ounces, and you have a lot of vegetables.
That's right. That's right, and that's ideal. That's what I do currently at Irvine Clinical Research. Is I just offer free consultations on diet, the specifics of the diet, consultations on brain health, things of that sort.
All right. I want to give your number and website. The number is 1-800-856-8121, and healthybrainclub.com is Dr. Trin's website. It's actually a Facebook page, but you get all kinds of good information. We're going to have him back in probably a couple of weeks. We're going to talk about your trip to Vietnam and the Tongue Out program.
Would love to do that.
Always a pleasure.
All right.
You take care. We'll see you soon. We'll be right back.